The man sitting across from you at dinner seems perfectly pleasant. He talks about his children's soccer games, complains about traffic, shares photos from his recent vacation. He works in middle management at a large corporation and has never been arrested. You would trust him to watch your house. What you don't know is that his department's algorithm has denied healthcare coverage to thousands of sick people. His efficiency reports track how quickly his team can reject claims. He has personally overseen systems that have led to preventable deaths. Yet he sleeps soundly each night, genuinely convinced he's just doing his job well. This is the face of modern evil. Most people imagine evil as dramatic: serial killers, dictators, terrorists. But the most devastating evil in human history has been carried out by ordinary people who simply stopped thinking about what they were doing. In 1961, a German Jewish political philosopher named Hannah Arendt attended the trial of Adolf Eichmann, a Nazi official who had organized the transportation of Jews to concentration camps during the Holocaust. She expected to encounter a monster. Instead, she found a boring middle manager who spoke in corporate jargon and seemed genuinely confused about why people were upset with him. Arendt called this phenomenon the banality of evil. Evil committed by normal people who have become thoughtless about the human consequences of their actions. Her insights explain how genocide happens, but also how everyday institutions today cause massive harm through the accumulated actions of well-meaning individuals. This video will show you how to recognize when you might be participating in harmful systems without realizing it. The question is not whether you are a good person. The question is whether you will remain a thinking person when the systems around you reward thoughtlessness. The Nazi Bureaucrat. On May 11th, 1960, Israeli agents kidnapped Adolf Eichmann from his quiet suburban home in Argentina. During World War II, Eichmann had been responsible for organizing train schedules and managing deportation lists to efficiently transport millions of Jews to concentration camps where they would be murdered. When Eichmann stood trial in Jerusalem, Hannah Arendt covered the proceedings for the New Yorker magazine. Arendt was a brilliant philosopher who had herself fled Nazi Germany. She expected to see pure evil on display. Instead, she watched a man who reminded her of any middle manager in a corporate office. Eichmann spoke in cliches and bureaucratic jargon. When asked about his role in mass murder, he discussed transportation efficiency and administrative problem-solving. He seemed genuinely puzzled by suggestions that he should have questioned his assignments. Eichmann repeatedly insisted that he was just following orders and doing his job well. His defense was simple. He was a small cog in a large machine, responsible only for his specific tasks. His primary motivation was career advancement, not hatred of Jews. The system had divided mass murder into small, seemingly normal administrative tasks. The secretary who typed deportation orders never saw the train cars. The railway scheduler never saw the camps. Each person could focus on doing their immediate job competently while remaining psychologically distant from the ultimate result. This allowed ordinary people to participate in extraordinary evil while maintaining their self-image as decent professionals. Eichmann genuinely believed he was innocent because he personally never killed anyone. He had simply processed paperwork efficiently. Arendt called this the banality of evil, evil committed by people who had stopped thinking about the human meaning of their work. Think about your own job. Are there aspects where you focus solely on metrics or procedures without considering what those activities ultimately accomplish for real people? When normal people stop thinking, Arendt discovered that the most dangerous thing about Eichmann was not his cruelty, but his thoughtlessness. By thoughtlessness, she did not mean stupidity. Eichmann was intelligent. Thoughtlessness meant the absence of moral reflection, the failure to pause and consider what your actions actually mean for other human beings. Thinking means having an internal conversation with yourself. When you truly think about something, you examine it from different perspectives and ask, what am I really doing? Who does this help or harm? Could I justify this to someone I respect? Thoughtless people simply follow procedures without this internal dialogue. They become cogs in a machine, human components in larger systems they do not examine. Modern institutions often encourage thoughtlessness through specialization and euphemistic language. Companies right-size rather than fire people. They optimize human resources rather than eliminate jobs. This language allows people to discuss harmful actions without confronting what they are actually doing. When you stop thinking about the human impact of your work, you become capable of participating in systems that cause real harm while maintaining your self-image as a good person. The solution is cultivating the habit of thinking, regularly stepping back from immediate tasks to examine their broader meaning and consequences. Set aside time each week to examine your daily work from the perspective of its ultimate human impact. Practice translating corporate jargon into plain language that acknowledges real consequences for real people. Evil in everyday institutions. The psychological mechanisms that enabled the Holocaust continue operating in modern institutions. Consider a hypothetical pharmaceutical executive who prices insulin at $300 per vial, knowing diabetics will die without it. She does not think of herself as killing people. She thinks about maximizing shareholder value and meeting quarterly targets. Her situation parallels Eichmann's. She focuses on professional competence rather than human outcomes. She operates within systems that reward efficient pursuit of narrow goals while discouraging moral reflection about broader consequences. Technology companies employ similar mechanisms when they design algorithms that amplify misinformation or manipulate elections. The engineers involved see themselves as solving technical problems. The undermining of democracy happens through automated systems that obscure human responsibility. Environmental destruction provides another example. Climate change results from millions of people simply doing their jobs within systems that reward short-term profits over long-term sustainability. Individual engineers and executives focus on immediate responsibilities while their cumulative professional competence produces environmental destruction that threatens human civilization. The pattern is always the same. Normal people focusing on professional competence while avoiding moral reflection about ultimate consequences. The early warning signs include increasing use of euphemistic language, growing specialization that fragments responsibility, and pressure to avoid asking bigger questions about purpose. Notice when you feel pressure to focus solely on immediate tasks while avoiding broader questions about consequences and purpose. The practice of thinking. Arendt believed that thinking was the only reliable defense against participating in evil. Real thinking is fundamentally disruptive. It interrupts automatic responses and introduces friction into smooth operations. This is why institutions that depend on unquestioning compliance actively discourage thinking. The thinking person maintains an internal dialogue about what they are doing and why. This makes it impossible to simply follow orders without considering their human meaning. When you truly think about your actions, you cannot avoid confronting yourself as both the actor and the judge of what you do. Developing this capacity requires deliberate practice. Thinking demands mental space to engage with your own thoughts without pressure to reach immediate conclusions. Real thinking is uncomfortable. It involves confronting contradictions and questioning beliefs that provide psychological security. The practice begins with simple questions. What am I really doing? Who benefits and who is harmed? Could I explain this to someone I respect? What would happen if everyone did what I am doing? Thinking also requires courage, the willingness to question authorities and accept the social discomfort that comes from refusing to go along with prevailing assumptions. Thinking people often appear troublesome because they cannot be relied upon to follow directives without moral consideration. But this apparent inefficiency is precisely what makes thinking people unsuitable for systematic evil. They insist on injecting human considerations into processes designed to exclude them. Dedicate time each day to examining your life without trying to solve immediate problems. Practice questioning your assumptions about familiar activities. Develop the habit of asking whether you could justify your actions to future generations. Staying human. The banality of evil is not a historical curiosity. It is a permanent feature of complex societies. Every generation faces the same choice: to think for themselves or let others think for them. The most important insight from Arendt's work is that evil is not primarily a problem of bad people, but of good people who stop thinking. The transformation happens gradually through small compromises and the slow erosion of moral reflection. Recognizing this pattern creates opportunities for resistance. Every moment when someone pauses to consider the human meaning of their actions, every instance when someone questions whether familiar procedures serve humane purposes, these are acts of moral resistance that help preserve human agency within inhuman systems. The practice of thinking cannot guarantee that you will never participate in harmful systems, but it can ensure that when you do, it will be a conscious choice rather than an unconscious drift into complicity. Arendt's message was both sobering and hopeful. Sobering because it revealed how easily ordinary people can become instruments of harm. Hopeful because it identified a capacity available to everyone, the capacity for thinking, that serves as a reliable defense against such transformation. Your individual choices may not prevent institutional evil, but they contribute to maintaining the kind of moral culture that makes such evil more difficult to achieve. Each person who preserves their capacity for moral reflection creates space for others to do the same. In a world that will always contain the potential for the banality of evil, the cultivation of thinking is both a personal practice and a public service. It is how ordinary people protect themselves from becoming instruments of harm, and how societies maintain the moral resources necessary for recognizing and resisting systematic evil before it becomes too powerful to stop.